My name is Elisa Rani Anaprumpwan Charles Johnson. My matrix number is 17-19F1072.
I am Anusuya Anaprumpwan Balu and my matrix card number is 17-19F1999. Today, me and my teammate will be presenting about management of material recovery facility at Politeknik Sultan Idris Shah, Selangor. Let's begin with our presentation.
We would like to begin our presentation with a short introduction about material recovery facility. What is material recovery facility? Well, material recovery facility is sometimes called as material reclamation facility or even material recycling facility is a plant that separates and prepares single stream recycling materials to be sold to end buyers. Material recovery facilities sort a wide array of recyclable materials such as plastics, cardboards, papers including newspapers, magazines and etc. such as glass bottles, metal containers including aluminium and steel cans and also cartons. Solid waste minimization and recycling goals for municipalities are achievable through the installation of material recovery facilities. And in certain solid waste management systems, government-owned and operated MRFs are feasible and cost justified. So there are three types of material recovery facility. The mixed waste stream composition represents a complete residential waste stream, while the single stream, dual stream and pre-sorted MRF compositions are identical. However, the number of streams delivered to each MRF type differs. Across these three MRF types, we assume that recycling program participation rates and the source separation rates remain constant while only the number of waste stream changes. The functions of all the material recovery facility is to separate a waste stream into streams of saleable recyclables and a residual stream for final disposal that contains non-recyclable materials and non-recovered recyclables. As a concerned student towards environmental issues, especially on the lack of cleanliness of the material recovery facility, in this research a new system is awakened to improve the cleanliness of the material recovery facility.
Now, I will be explaining about the problem statement of this research. The problem statement that has been identified during this research is that MRF users and students have found many animals and pests in the material recovery facility. It is because things such as greasy food container and unwashed can drinks were found in the MRF, which can attract pests and contaminate an entire lot of recyclable materials and create unsanitary conditions. These animals and pests affect the cleanliness in the MRF, which can cause disease to MRF users. Next, the quantity of non-essential materials such as woods has increased in the MRF as it cannot be recycled. Non-recyclable materials can cause injuries to the people handling MRF. Items such as wood, furniture and broken glass can cause danger as people handling the MRF have to handpick them. It increases their exposure to material that can be sharp or contaminated. Let's get to know the objective of this research. The objective of this research is to design a suitable standard operating procedure of guidance to manage the waste in material recovery facility based on analysis of questionnaires. A standard operating procedure is a set of written instructions that describe the step-by-step process that must be taken to properly perform a routine activity. This SOP can increase the efficiency of MRF and guide the community of PSIS to use the MRF in a proper way. By developing a proper SOP, the cleanliness of MRF can be improved. The next objective is to determine the level of the management of recyclable materials among the staffs, lecturers and students. Recycling is the process of converting waste materials into new materials. By sending recyclable materials to the MRF, the amount of rubbish which will be sent to landfills can be reduced. Recycling also saves energy. This can help in reducing non-essential materials such as wood in the MRF as it cannot be recycled. Let's get to know the scope of this research. The first scope is that this study focuses on the material recovery facility at Sultan Idris Shah Politeknik, Selangor. The next scope is that the targeted population for this study are lecturers, staffs and students of Sultan Idris Shah Politeknik. And the last scope is that the method used to conduct this study was through an online questionnaire which was distributed to the students, lecturers and other staffs.
So So now I'll be talking about the literature review. The title of the first literature review is Engineering Value Recovery from Municipal Solid Waste by Griffith in the year 2009. The content that is included in this literature review is the disadvantages of dirty MRF include contamination of recyclables with food waste, which in turn can have negative impact on the performance of the MRF and the quality of the recovered recycled materials. The difference or notes that is included in this literature review is the contamination of food waste in the recyclable materials can decrease the efficiency of MRF. Besides that, the title of the second literature review is Recovering Value from the Single Stream Material Recovery Facility, an Outbound Contamination Analysis in Florida by Damgachoglu in the year 2020. The content that is included in the second literature review is non-recyclable materials in the collected recyclables cause contamination within MRFs as much as non-recyclable materials pose issues with the sorting equipment, which then leads to a bigger inefficiency across the sorting process and affects the outbound materials in material recovery facilities. The difference and notes that are included in the second literature review is non-recyclable materials can cause difficulties and inefficiency in MRF when sorting the materials in material recovery facilities. The title of the third literature review is Performance Evaluation of Material Separation in a Material Recovery Facility using a Network Flow Model by Raymond in the year 2018. The content that is included in the third literature review is that material recovery facility is a system of mechanical and manual separation processes that sorts a multi-stream waste to recover recyclable materials. One of the challenge in handling is the variability in the composition of the waste streams received by the material recovery facility. The difference and notes that are included in the third literature review is that material separation of collected waste is carried out mechanically in MRFs based on the physical properties of each material. Some material recovery facilities use manual sorting to separate non-recyclable materials from collected waste. Now, I would like to talk about the methodology. Several methods were used to conduct this research. The figure that is displayed on the screen shows the flowchart of this research. The purpose of the flowchart is to visually display the sequence of the activities in a process. We begin with online questionnaire. An online questionnaire was used to extract data from the respondents. It's relatively inexpensive, quick and efficient way of collecting large amount of data as the researchers were not present to collect those responses firsthand due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Besides that, a website was generated and a YouTube video was uploaded to increase the knowledge of the audience about material recovery facility by promoting and publishing it. Moreover, a campaign was also conducted in Politeknik Sultan Idris Shah to properly manage the material recovery facility. We also collected and analyzed the important information about existing and potential MRF users. And the best part is we also designed standard operating procedures, which is also known as SOPs, and we implemented the SOPs onto the MRF as it is a guide to the MRF users where it enhances the knowledge of the users on what are the do's and don'ts of the material recovery facility to improve the management of the material recovery facility. Next, I would like to present the data that was obtained through the Google form in the form of graph. So the first section of the questionnaire is general information where we collected the information regarding gender, age, position of the respondents in PSIS, courses and level of education from the respondents. The first graph that has been displayed on the screen is regarding gender. Based on the graph, there are a total number of 265 respondents. The highest respondents are female, which is 165 of them, and the lowest respondents are male, which is 89 of them. The second graph that has been displayed is regarding age. Based on the graph, there are a total number of 265 respondents. The respondents from age category 30 to 40 years old are 36 of them, while the respondents from age category 40 to 50 years old are 25 of them. The highest respondents are from age category 18 to 30 years old, which is 130 of them. The lowest respondents are from age category 50 and above years old, which is 15 of them. The third graph represents the position of the respondents in PSIS. Based on the graph, there are a total number of 265 respondents. The respondents who are staff are 40 of them, while the respondents who are contract workers are 20 of them. The highest respondents are students, which is 174 of them, and the lowest respondents are lecturers, which are 22 of them. The fourth graph represents the courses, and the choices that were given are Diploma in Environmental Engineering, Diploma in Civil Engineering, Diploma in Architecture, and others were also available as PSIS offers other courses as well. Based on the graph, there are a total number of 265 respondents. The respondents who are involved in Diploma in Civil Engineering are 37 of them, while the respondents who are involved in others are 84 of them. The highest respondents who are involved in Diploma in Environmental Engineering are 99 of them, and the lowest respondents who are involved in Diploma in Architecture are 36 of them. The fifth graph represents the level of education, and the choices that were given are SPM, Diploma, Degree, Masters and PhD. Based on the graph, there are a total number of 265 respondents. The respondents whose level of education is SPM are 28 of them, while the respondents whose level of education is Degree is 40 of them, and the highest respondents whose level of education is Diploma is 175 of them. The lowest respondents whose level of education is PhD is 1 of them. Let's move into our next section, where the objective is to determine the necessities on managing the material recovery facility. So the first graph represents the number of respondents that have been to the material recovery facility that is located in PSIS. Based on the data obtained, around 71 respondents have never been to the MRF, while 37 respondents often go to the MRF. It is shown that around 64 respondents rarely go to the MRF, while 43 respondents go to the MRF sometimes, and 41 respondents frequently go to the MRF. The second graph represents Material Recovery Facility, which is also known as Material Reclamation Facility and Material Recycling Facility, is a specialized plant that receives, separates and prepares recyclable materials. Based on the data that was obtained, a majority of respondents have strongly agreed, while only a small minority have disagreed. Approximately 95 respondents have agreed, and 54 respondents have chosen neutral. The third graph represents that it is important for the condition of the material recovery facility to be clean. Based on the data that was obtained, the number of respondents that chose strongly agree is greater than the number of respondents that chose strongly disagree. 98 respondents chose agree, 34 respondents chose neutral, and approximately 4 respondents chose disagree. The fourth graph represents that the segregation of waste is important in the material recovery facility. Based on the data that was obtained, the number of respondents that chose strongly agree is greater than the number of respondents that chose strongly disagree. And the number of respondents that chose disagree is lesser than the number of respondents that chose agree. The number of respondents that chose neutral is 35.
Now, I will be presenting the graphs that serves the purpose of to know the condition of the material recovery facility after implementing the standard operating procedure. Graph 1 represents pests such as cats and mouse affect the cleanliness of the MRF. Based on the data that was obtained, the number of respondents that have chosen strongly agree, which is 131 of them, is greater than the number of respondents that have chosen strongly disagree, which is 3 of them. The difference between highest and lowest number of respondents is 50.4%. Graph 3 represents a poorly maintained MRF might affect the health of MRF users. Based on the data that was obtained, the number of respondents that have chosen strongly agree, which is 137 of them, is greater than the number of respondents that have chosen strongly disagree, which is none of them. The difference between highest and lowest number of respondents is 53.5%. Graph 4 represents unnecessary waste in MRF will cause unwanted incident and injuries to MRF users. Based on the data that was obtained, the number of respondents that have chosen strongly agree, which is 121 of them, is greater than the number of respondents that have chosen strongly disagree, which is 4 of them. The difference between highest and lowest number of respondents is 46.3%. This graph falls under the category of Management in Material Recovery Facility at Psis. The next graph falls under the category of Standard Operating Procedures in MRF. Graph 2 represents implementation of standard operating procedure would increase the efficiency of MRF in Psis. Based on the data that was obtained, the number of respondents that have chosen strongly agree, which is 126 of them, is greater than the number of respondents that have chosen strongly disagree, which is 3 of them. The difference between highest and lowest number of respondents is 48%. Graph 4 represents an online campaign about MRF would increase awareness level in the community on the management of MRF at Psis. Based on the data that was obtained, the number of respondents that have chosen strongly agree, which is 133 of them, is greater than the number of respondents that have chosen disagree, which is 3 of them. The difference between highest and lowest number of respondents is 50.8%. Graph 5 represents a clean and properly managed MRF would encourage people to use it more often and would reduce the accumulation of waste. Based on the data that was obtained, the number of respondents that have chosen strongly agree, which is 115 of them, is greater than the number of respondents that have chosen disagree, which is 3 of them. The difference between highest and lowest number of respondents is 43.7%. The next graphs serves the purpose of to determine the level of management of recyclable materials among the staffs, lecturers and students. Graph 1 represents recyclable materials are the materials that has been recovered or diverted from the non-hazardous solid waste stream for purpose of reuse, recycling or reclamation and substantial. Based on the data that was obtained, a majority of respondents have chosen strongly agree, while a majority of respondents have chosen strongly disagree. The difference between the highest and lowest data is 52%. Graph 2 represents recyclable materials include many kinds of glass, paper, cardboard, metal, plastic, tires and textiles. Based on the data that was obtained, approximately 140 respondents have chosen strongly agree, while only 2 of them chose disagree. The difference between the highest and lowest data is 54%. Graph 3 represents MRF users often send materials to the material recovery facility in Psis to be recycled. Graph 3 represents MRF users often send materials to the material recovery facility in Psis to be recycled. Based on the data that was obtained for the third graph, a majority of respondents have chosen strongly agree, while a minority of respondents have chosen strongly disagree. The difference between highest and lowest data is 41.4%. These graphs fall under the category of knowledge of recycling. This next graph falls under the category of knowledge of segregation. Graph 1 represents it is essential that waste is put in separate bins so that it can be appropriately dealt with. Based on the data that was obtained, approximately 144 respondents chose strongly agree, while 1 respondent chose disagree. The difference between the highest and lowest data is 56%. Graph 2 represents MRF users are aware of how waste segregation takes place in the material recovery facility. Based on the data that was obtained, a majority of respondents have chosen strongly agree, while a minority of respondents have chosen strongly disagree. The difference between highest and lowest data is 51.2%.
Now we'll be talking about the best part of this research, which is implementing the standard operating procedures onto the MRF. Me and my teammate have designed 10 suitable standard operating procedures to be implemented onto the MRF. 5 of them are do's and 5 of them are don'ts. Come, let's have a look at them.
Now, I will be explaining about the standard operating procedure of this research. Let's get to know about the do's in the MRF. First, materials should be segregated before bringing them to the MRF. Waste which are recyclable and non-recyclable must be segregated before putting them in MRF. Next, the MRF shall be fenced properly to ensure protection from rodents and other animals. The rodents and pests can affect the cleanliness of the MRF, therefore the MRF must be fenced. The third SOP is that the MRF shall be gated to ensure the protection of waste. This can increase the efficiency of MRF. The fourth SOP is that there shall be a notice board to display about the MRF in front of the MRF. This can increase the knowledge of community of Psis about the usage of the MRF. The fifth SOP is that waste shall be put into the industrial tray for the checking of the material for dirt. Waste with any of these shall not be accepted. This will help in improving the condition of the MRF.
I will be talking about the don'ts. So I would like to begin it with, do not bring in any non-essential materials such as woods, polysterenes, plastic wraps and garbage into the MRF as it can't be recycled. For example, plastic films, plastic wrapping and thin plastic bags run the risk of clogging processing machinery if they are collected along with larger, heavier and more rigid recyclable plastics. The second one, do not include materials such as food waste when recycling in material recovery facility, as most of it ends up in the landfill sites where it rots and releases methane, which is a damaging greenhouse gas. The third one, items such as food and drinks are not allowed into the MRF as it can spill and contaminate the place, and most importantly, food and drinks that are spilled may damage paper until it can't be recycled. So don't bring any food or drinks into the MRF, alright? Besides that, do not bring in any materials without segregating them. Segregation is very essential in MRF. Materials that are not recyclable should be separated from the waste stream as it can cause unwanted problems in the recycling process. Last but not least, do not let the waste to be scattered around the MRF. This is because the waste that are exposed have high possibilities to be damaged by rodents and other animals.
Now, I will be talking about the conclusion of this research. Based on the research that have been conducted, it can be concluded that not all the respondents at Psis were aware about the existence and usage of MRF users before implementing the SOP, but only a few of them recognizes and has a certain amount of knowledge of the MRF in Psis. Therefore, a few ways such as online campaign, video and online presentation were carried out to create awareness among the residents of Psis. This is to increase the understanding of Psis community about the function and usage of MRF. Through consistent research, a proper standard operating procedure has been developed to increase the efficiency in MRF. Lastly, the objectives were achieved through this research as more people were more aware about the existence and usage of MRF in Psis. The cleanliness and management of MRF has been improved. Moreover, the SOP has increased the efficiency of MRF. That's all from us. Thank you.